560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. If you want the law in Illinois to change, you got to speak out. And we have to hear from victims of terrible public policy. And unfortunately, there are a lot of them. And they grow with each passing day, as we have documented on this show. One of the most thoughtless laws passed in my lifetime in Illinois is the Pritzker Purge Law, the so-called Safety Act. Recall, it was opposed by 100 of Illinois' 102 county state's attorneys. As far as I know, every county sheriff. But Kim Foxx liked it. And Eric Reinhardt, the Lake County state's attorney, suburban Lake County, liked it. And J.B. Pritzker and the political power structure, Chris Welch and Don Harmon and those supermajorities of Democrats in Springfield liked it. So it's the law. No cash bail. The release of people who have committed violent crimes, in many cases, to commit other violent crimes while they're on pretrial release. And CWB Chicago has now about a 4-year running series documenting the hundreds of victims and their and by extension their families and friends who have been felled, been injured by this law. One of them is the Bos family. Been talking about this story over the last couple of months since a 52-year-old Waukegan man was arrested back in April when a missing 37-year-old Antioch woman named Megan Bos was found in a container on his property. Well, the recent news is that ICE has now taken this individual, this Waukegan man, into custody because he's in this country illegally. But you have two layers here. He's on pretrial release for the charges he faced in April. Concealment of a death, abuse of a corpse, and obstructing justice. And we also find out he's here illegally. So we have a sanctuary city and a safety act. That's a real twofer. I don't mean to make light of it because it's not funny. For more on the topic, this case specifically, as well as the laws we live under here in Illinois, Jennifer Bos joins us. She is the mother of Megan Bos, that 37-year-old woman who was found dead in Waukegan. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So, just give us your perspective on what happened to your daughter, maybe at the hands of this man in Waukegan. I don't know. And then what happened to your family at the hands of Illinois' justice system?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think most people understand that, Megan was missing for almost 2 months. She had recently gotten out of rehab, and just a few weeks before, and we hadn't heard from her in quite some time. So I did report her missing early in March. I'm sorry, I sometimes lose track of what I'm saying. I have a little brain fog these days.
That's all right.
Anyway, so we spent quite a lot of time looking for her, passing out flyers, posting social media. There was some news and everything. They were able to, the Antioch Police Department were able to use her phone records to discern who was the last person that she spoke with, and that happened to be Jose Mendoza Gonzalez. They went and talked to him at his work. he didn't want to be arrested at work, he said to them. And so they took him in. He later confessed that he had, initially he said that she had been there and left. Then he did confess that she was still there, that he had, he claims that he saw her using drugs, and he had gone upstairs for 5 minutes to check on a leak, and when he came back down, she was deceased.
And
he said he didn't call 911 because he was scared because of his illegal status.
well, so was he using drugs as well? Is he a drug dealer? What is the relationship between this guy and your daughter?
Well, we're not clear on that. She has known him for a few years. I found out from other friends that she has known him, but nobody really tells me anything about him. I don't blame them for not wanting to be associated with him. So we haven't really been able to find out much on his background. There doesn't appear to be any kind of criminal background. Hard to say. The possibilities are many.
And I mean, just so I'm clear, your daughter was this a long running battle with addiction that she had?
It was. My son passed away in 2020, and after that happened, it was an accident. And after that happened, Megan really kind of spiraled. It really affected her, and she really went down this path pretty deep into a dark place. So she had been through rehab a couple of times over the last handful of years, unsuccessfully. And this particular time, she was picked up on a warrant back in October of 24. It was an old warrant, also drug-related. I think it was paraphernalia. And they put her in jail. So she was in Lake County Jail until December when the judge had her go to rehab. She was so happy when I saw her last on Christmas Day. I was able to take her daughter to see her on Christmas Day. She was happy, and she was healthy looking for the first time in a couple of years. She had plans for her future. She was really looking forward to being able to be with her children. And just, it was really great. I really felt like this time she was going to make it, and so did she. Unfortunately, she wasn't released from the court. At the same time, she was released from the rehab. That was a mistake by her public defender, who did not get her in front of the judge in time. So she was forced to go back to jail. It was at least a day. I'm unclear on the time that she was there because of the privacy, of course. But it was at least a day that she was back in Lake County Jail before she could be released from the court without her medication, including the Suboxone that was helping to keep her sober. She was only a mile or so from where she lived. She was probably already starting to feel some of the effects of missing her Suboxone. She didn't have it with her. She had called me afterwards and said, I'm going to run home and grab some things, and then I'm going to go back to the rehab and pick up my things there and my medication and go over to the sober house. That's where she had already had a bed arranged to continue her treatment in sober living. She never made it there.
That was the last time you spoke with her?
No, she did call about a week later and apologized for being a screw up. That was a week later, and then 2 days before I knew that she was, or before the date that everybody realized she was gone, on the 17th of February, she called me and said, "Hey, Mom, it's me." And I said, "Hey," and she somebody in the background got her attention, and she's like, "Oh, I have to call you right back." She never did call me back. It was 2 days later. I had sent her a message telling her how much we loved her and that we could help her get back on track, and, we weren't angry. She did see that message. She didn't respond to it, and that was the last I knew that she was still with us.
And the individual that was charged in connection with her death that you mentioned, he was charged in April, as I mentioned at the outset, and then released pending trial until ICE intervened. But I mean, it's sort of, as I said at the outset, this sort of the law here, both the Safety Act, which allows for someone who is accused of these crimes to be released pretrial, and then compounded by the fact that he's in this country illegally. Your view on that?
Oh, it's so frustrating. And I had no idea when they arrested him. They had found her, I believe it was a Thursday evening of the 10th. On the 11th, they arrested him. They detained him overnight until he could go to his first appearance. And after his first appearance, which the prosecution did request that he be detained, the judge had no choice really but to release him. And there's a reason for that. I feel really bad that the judge is taking such grief for releasing him to the community, but the Safety Act really does tie their hands quite a bit. In Class 4 felonies, they are, okay, so let me think how I can explain this. Okay, the defendants can be held if they're charged with really especially dangerous crimes, or if they can be proven to be a serious flight risk or a threat to the community, right?
Right.
So in a Class 4 felony, he was only convicted or charged relating to the concealing of a corpse, abuse of a corpse, which in this case is only applicable because he moved her body, not what he did putting her in the garbage can, and obstruction of justice, which was breaking her phone. Those don't fit the criteria of a dangerous crime, an especially dangerous crime, and the prosecution really couldn't prove a threat to the community safety or that he was a serious flight risk because his illegal status also does not count to elevate the flight risk.
Right. Even though, I mean, this is the thing that's so crazy. So he's not a flight risk, even though the reason he says that he concealed the body was because he didn't want to be discovered as having been in this country illegally.
Correct.
So now he's in custody. He's been charged with crimes. Now we're going to find out he's in this country illegally, but he's not a flight risk. That makes
Correct.
a lot of sense.
It's pretty ridiculous because, the law enforcement is no longer allowed, including the judge, to ask what their legal status is.
Right.
But he volunteered it. They already knew it. And I think that if you're in this country illegally and you commit a crime such as this that includes the detail that you have a dead body, I think anything that any case that involves a dead body should be questioned and maybe err at the side of caution and hold on to that person until you know if they were involved in their death or not.
Exactly. I mean, it's just commonsensical. I mean, I think everybody listening to the show would say the same thing you just said. It's just so we have this dynamic, but then how did you perhaps instigate ICE's attention to this case? They have so many. There's a wrinkle here, isn't there?
Yeah. So early on, I was contacted by State Representative Tom Weber, and he had at some point invited me down to Springfield to do a press conference in which I met Patrick Sheehan. Both of them have been working diligently trying to get the Safety Act reforms through. They have helped and supported me in trying to get my voice heard, but it wasn't really being just kind of on the local level. it was very frustrating. And I had this opportunity to go to Washington. I have a dear friend, Dawn Bethel Allen, and she is involved with group drug-induced homicide. She also lost her son to counterfeit pill a couple of years ago, and she's worked very diligently in this arena of drug-induced homicide to get those laws changed, because that's a whole nother story. She was invited to speak at the signing of the Halt Fentanyl Act, the presidential signing that happened last Wednesday. Yeah, just a week ago, I was talking to the president. It was crazy. But she invited me to go along with her. I had very little notice. The next day, we were on a flight, and we attended the Halt Fentanyl signing, which was absolutely amazing to witness such transformation in legislation. It's really important, to families who have lost their children, to all this illicit fentanyl that is now flooding our country. Anyway, I was sitting there during the ceremony, and Speaker Johnson was sitting 3 chairs down from me. So I quickly took a notebook out of my purse and scribbled him a note with the very basics of the case. I mean, it was just a very small notebook. Mm-hmm. And I passed that note over to him. I never did get a chance to talk to him, but after the ceremony, we all got up. President Trump was talking to all the families that were on the stage, giving them some time and attention, and then he started to leave the room. Well, I had made my way over to the area where he was going to walk out of the room, and as he went past me, I don't know what took me over, but my arm went up in the air, and I hollered out for him. He said, Mr. President, and he turned around and he looked at me. He said, I didn't know what I was going to say. It just kind of came out, so I don't think I can remember it verbatim. Yeah. But the basic of it was, I said, my daughter was missing earlier this year. We found her on the property of an illegal alien who had hidden her in a garbage can filled with bleach for 2 months, and he was released. And he said, I think you can see in the videos that are posted online, he said, illegal. And I said, yes. I said, I'd really love to tell you the rest of my story. And he looked at me and he said, watch what happens. And that was it. He walked out the door. I thought, okay, well, I told him. I had another friend who lived in Washington who had some contacts, and she was able to make me some meetings with some people on Capitol Hill, some lawmakers and their staff. And I was able to also tell my story. I do believe that it was Congress who elevated my story. The people that I spoke to, the staffers, the members of Congress. I talked to Representative Mary Miller. I believe they elevated the story, and then the White House gave the go-ahead for ICE to pick him up. Sure enough, watch what happened. 3 days later, he was picked up by ICE.
Well, that has to be satisfying at that level. I mean, in terms of you actually almost single-handedly, obviously you need some help, but almost single-handedly getting justice for your daughter.
Oh, seriously, I was so thrilled. I think people were expecting me to be upset that he was, ICE was going to pick him up and deport him. I wasn't upset. Our laws here in Illinois, they don't cover what he did. The laws that he's charged with are just kind of the best they can do at this time, because the suspicious death investigation is still underway. We don't know if he has had a hand in her death. We don't know. Her autopsy finally came back after almost 3 months, the official report, and she is officially determined to be undetermined. And that is because there is close the possibility of a drug poisoning from a fentanyl or homicide or an accident.
Right.
They can't determine it because of the condition that she was in.
Is there any indication that that he was a fentanyl user as well? Do we know that?
At this point, we do not know. He did say that he was not a drug user. He said that he was sober and attending AA meetings. I do believe the AA meeting thing has been or that his sobriety to alcohol has been verified. His relation with drugs is questionable. I've heard some things from people in that realm that lead me to believe he's not completely away from that world, but there's no proof.
The Lake County State's Attorney, Eric Reinhart, said, "We believe that a criminal trial and sentencing is more appropriate than deportation procedures. The defendant is charged with several felonies, which can potentially result in consecutive prison sentences upon a conviction. As people know, deportation to another country does not lead to prison in that country. If we agree to deportation, he could be free in days."
Right.
How do you respond to Reinhart?
Well, it's a little bit of word magic there, because free in days is more referring to free in Mexico, not here. He was already free, walking around. You know, he's been free for the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
The class 4 felonies carry a 1 to 3 year charge. Okay. In Illinois, that automatically, say he gets 3 years. In Illinois, that automatically gets cut down to 18 months right away to be served. He was on a 24-hour curfew, and when a defendant is on a 24-hour curfew, every day they are on that curfew counts as a day served.
Mm-hmm.
So say this trial took a year to complete. That takes another year off that 18 months. So what's he looking at? 6 months, maybe even probation. You know, you have to remember that his charges are not really about what he did to her body, with her body, putting her in the garbage can, pouring bleach in there. You know, she was in a large amount of liquid, heavily dosed with bleach, and keeping her there for 51 days, which, you know, she was disappearing. He broke her phone. So the charges that he has are for breaking her phone, moving her body, and not reporting that she died. None of those are violent or dangerous crimes according to our law. So they're not what he is charged with now that he admitted to, and that's what we're dealing with now that relates to the Safety Act, is just not enough to really keep him for very long. There is a possibility that sentences for these crimes could be, I forgot the word.
Consecutive.
Yes, thank you. Consecutive, but that will be up to the judge. That will be something that will be determined during trial.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee it.
No, I get it. You're looking at a calculus of maybe he gets a few months, and then in this state, then the sanctuary state, then he's back, and what now? I got to track down the president again to scramble ice. You know, I mean, as opposed to getting him out of this country and getting him out of this country for good.
This is why I didn't. I'm so sorry. This is why I didn't call ICE in the first place. I really wanted him to face the consequences of what he did, and I believed that it was a pretty serious crime that would have some pretty serious consequences. And as time has gone by, and I've realized that if we cannot prove other evidence doesn't arise, that we can prove that there's a more sinister thing here, then he's, you know, it's really not very much of a consequence. And I was feeling this when I went and spoke with the person with the judiciary. I spoke to somebody from the Judiciary Committee. It's a subcommittee for crime. And I made it really clear to them that when a family is already in the middle of a court case with their perpetrator, who is an illegal alien, it doesn't feel good to have that perpetrator picked up and thrown out of the country. That, you know, that doesn't feel like justice. It feels kind of like you're cheated from the opportunity to have that person be put in prison. But when ICE is involved, you really have no control. It's up to them what they decide to do. I hope they address that at some point because, like I said, for the victims, it doesn't feel like justice is served. It doesn't give them any sort of closure to just throw their perpetrator out of the country. So I do hope that ICE will retain him, that they will keep him and bring him to court, allow him to go through his court and subsequently any
serve whatever sentence and then have him deported.
Any sentence he may get.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for. But at this point, if he goes out of the country, if we're left with only these charges and he gets thrown out of the country, more power to him. You know what? Why should I be put through all of these months of dealing with the court system for nothing really to happen to him anyway?
Jennifer Bos, the mother of Megan Bos. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time and very sorry for the loss of your daughter as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I would appreciate any support I can get. I am working really closely with Representatives Tom Weber and Patrick Sheehan to get this portion of the Safety Act changed to benefit the victims instead of the criminals.
Good for you. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Jennifer, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Jennifer joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up at 7:37, we'll turn our attention to matters, dollars, and cents with economist Stephen Moore. That's 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 75 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer Newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Congressman Thomas Massey says President Trump's threats against him